Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. The observation of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day shortened the week on our daily talk show, Barnstable This Morning, but our list of newsworthy discussion topics was as long as ever, and Dr. King's legacy was at the top, with State Senator Dan Wolf offering some keen observations on Tuesday, January 18th. We'll have more on that coming up in just a moment, but we begin this week's BTM Highlights show earlier on Tuesday when Barnstable Police Chief Paul McDonald joined us to talk about the police presence in the western part of town. After a recent string of break-ins at a gas station in Cotuit, Town Councilor Rick Berry spoke out about the need for more police in the area. The chief told us that he agrees with Councilor Berry, but with limited resources available, the police department uses a strategic approach to policing that's proved successful despite the lack of visible squad cars in the western villages.
But when we deploy our resources, we just don't like putting police officers out there according to geographical boundaries. There are 7 villages within the town of Barnstable, and we have 5 patrol sectors. And then when the lieutenants, the commanders of the shift, deploy their resources, they deploy them according to the calls of service and where they anticipate the hot spots and the problem areas are going to be. Now, obviously, Hyannis gets by far the most crews assigned to it, and then as you move out, the calls of service definitely dissipate, so the less crews are going to be assigned the outside sectors. But we are coming up, we are trying to formulate a plan where we can get additional crews out there. But all that being said, the outside sectors, whenever there's a problem out there, whenever a crime spikes out there, where we see trends developing out in Cotuit, Osville, and Master Mills, we redeploy the troops, the police officers out into that area.
Sure.
This last fall there was a rash of breaks, particularly during the daytime out in Master Mills and Cotuit. The entire detective division was shifted out there along with additional patrols, and they made numerous arrests. So what they do is we have a crime analyst, because we have to track these calls by every day on a daily, weekly, and a monthly basis. And with that information is how we're going to deploy our resources. And if we see a trend developing anywhere in town, that's where we're going to put the police officers. We'd be remiss in our duties if we didn't. We know every Friday and Saturday night between 12 and 1:30 in the morning there are going to be problems at some of the local bar rooms, as you well know.
Sure.
We would be remiss in our duties if we bunch the patrols out, say, in West Barnstable and Standing Neck area. We know there's going to be a problem, so we have to put our resources out there. Same with out in Cotuit. Cotuit has had their problems in the past, and when they have had that, we step up the patrols, and we redeploy the forces out there. He's talking about, I think, on a day-to-day basis, where it is such a large geographical area. If you look at Cotuit and you look at Master Mills, geographically, they're larger than some entire communities.
Sure.
Yet the number of crews that we can put out there is very limited. So sometimes they can go for days or even a week, and they won't even see a police car because the crews assigned out there is such a large geographical area to cover. So it's just random preventive patrol, which is something else we're trying to get away from. As
we mentioned at the top of the show, State Senator Dan Wolf joined us later on Tuesday to share his thoughts on the impact of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Senator Wolf seemed pleased about the progress made towards tolerance, respect, and equality here on Cape Cod, but he acknowledged that there's still much more work to be done.
On Cape Cod, I think in a lot of ways we're better than most areas of the country. My experience is a lot of tolerance, curiosity relative to different cultures, ethnicities, religions, a good, healthy dialogue. People are caring about each other and interested in each other. I think as far as equality is concerned, the readings that I was doing of Dr. King yesterday, he spoke to the fact that there were 40 million Americans living in poverty, and that was back in the mid-60s, 1960s. Fast forward now 45 years. Hard to believe it's 45 years later. And we have close to 50 million Americans now that are living below the poverty line. And that poverty line is $22,000 a year of income. And I think it's hard to imagine when a family health insurance plan, for example, costs anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 that somebody can support a family on $22,000. So a lot of Dr. King, while he's best known for his speaking out and the incredible work he did on race relations and on racial equality, he really, most of his writing was actually about poverty and economic justice. And we haven't come far enough in the last 45 years.
Well, then, I guess to kind of wrap up this topic, Dan, what are some of the things that we can do? And obviously, this will go on forever, but what are some of the things that we can do to continue to attempt to level the playing field?
Well, if you look at what the Founding Fathers wrote about and what we in government like to talk about that sets this country aside and makes it a great country, it does have to do with class mobility, and it has to do with being a land of opportunity. And, you know, that really doesn't mean that everybody's equal. What it means is that everybody has an equal opportunity to achieve and to grow and to support a family and to have a good life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if you will. And that starts with good education. It starts with making sure, even in early development and early childhood, that families have access to good education, and daycare, so that adults and parents can be working and building towards their dreams. So it starts with an education system, right at preschool, early childhood development, right up through strong secondary education. So I think the first thing we have to look at from a legislative standpoint is, are we providing that opportunity through access to it?
One of the biggest news stories out of the State House this week was the announcement of Governor Deval Patrick's new proposal to continue the work of overhauling the state's pension system. One of the biggest proposed changes that would affect all new state employees is a 5-year increase in the minimum retirement age required to collect pension benefits. On Thursday, January 20th, Town Finance Director Mark Milne broke down this and a number of other features of pension reform Phase 3.
And for the town of Barnstable, how this would impact us, we basically fall into two categories. First category is called Group 1, which is mostly all of the employees for the town of Barnstable, and then Group 4, which is basically our police officers. And in Group 1, the large group of employees, they're proposing to increase the retirement age from between 60 and 67 from the current retirement age of 55 to 65. So somebody right now who's eligible for retirement could, if they're 55 or older, they could apply for retirement. That would change, and it would go up to a minimum of 60 under this legislation. For the police officers, or Group 4, they're currently eligible to retire starting at age of 45. That would change, and that would go up to 50 at the minimum age.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the loopholes that Governor Patrick wants to see closed in the current pension regulations, and one is kind of known as double dipping. And first of all, explain this to us, what it is, and how they want to change it.
Well, there was a high-profile case recently in the news where a former state employee retired, was collecting a pension, ran for elected office, won the election, and started collecting, a $100,000 salary in addition to the pension that they were already receiving.
This story end tragically, Mark?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, okay.
And so they want to eliminate that loophole so that people can't collect a salary as an elected official if they're already receiving a pension from a former position in public sector. All
right, and there's another loophole that's called spiking, and this one would be closed as well. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, the spiking rule is, they're trying to eliminate the situations where individuals who are coming close to the end of their retirement receive promotions and a significant increase in their compensation in order to inflate their pension benefit. This would eliminate that from happening unless it's a bona fide promotion. I mean, I'm sure the pension boards are going to have to review the circumstances if this does happen. If somebody does receive a significant increase in pay within their last 3 to 5 years of employment, they're probably going to want some documentation backing up, what this significant increase in pay was attributable to. I mean, it has to be a bona fide promotion. It can't just be, well, we think this person should be paid more, period.
Remember, if you'd like to see any of these interviews in their entirety, full-length episodes of Barnstable This Morning are available to watch online. You can find them in the town's video archives at town.barnstable.ma.us. Well, that's all for now. Everybody have a great weekend. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.